friends. Just wanted to say I hope that your first day of distance learning in all of your classes went well. For math, we're going to continue to just review for a few days. That way we all kind of get used to what this distance learning is going to look like and what the format's going to kind of be before we start learning new material. So here's our plan for today. Your task is to watch this video. There is a Delta Math to do again today. I promise it's not going to be every day. And then there is going to be a Google form that is on the calendar that I would like you guys to submit as well. Just a few questions so far about how this is going. So this is what I would like you guys to think about today. Remember in class when I showed you this magic trick, and if you want to look back at your notes, you have this in your notes. And I told you all to pick an angle that is either in quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. And we all picked different angles, and I was able to guess whether that angle, when you did the sine, the cosine, and tangent of that angle, whether it was going to be positive or negative. So, wasn't much of a magic trick. It is actually math behind it. So I made you guys fill out this table. And I said to remember that all students take calculus. Calculus. So what this ASTC stands for is which functions are positive in which quadrants. For example, if you pick an angle in quadrant 1, meaning anything from 0 to 90 degrees, you pick an angle in that quadrant, no matter if you do the sine of that angle, cosine, or tangent of that angle, all of them are going to be positive. So all the functions, sine is positive, cosine is positive, and tangent is positive. So if you did the sine of, let's say, 35 degrees, it would give you a positive value. Now, if you did the sine of 100 degrees, which is an angle in quadrant 2, you still would get a positive value. But if you did the cosine or tangent, you would get a negative value. Because in quadrant 2, any angle, in quadrant 2, if you take the sine of it, is going to be positive. If you take the cosine or tangent of it, is going to be negative. Same thing for the other two quadrants. So in quadrant 3, tangent is the only one that's positive. Sine and cosine are negative. And in quadrant 4, sine is negative, tangent is negative, because the C stands for cosine, which is the only function that is positive in that quadrant. In case you do forget what our quadrant numbers are, it goes in the order of a big C. So start in this top right corner. This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. So we're going to use this today for our first Delta Math assignment, which once you do a few, it should be pretty quick. And you only need to do 4 of these. So signs of trig functions, you need to complete 4. That doesn't mean try 4. And if you get them wrong, you get them wrong. You need to get 4 of them correctly. So you're going to keep going until you get 4 of these questions correctly. Let me show you how you're going to do these questions. Which quadrant does theta lie? All theta means is an angle. So I have an angle. Which quadrant is it going to be in if the following statements are true? So to complete these, I like to set up my axes and fill in this all students take calculus. The more you write it, the easier it will be to memorize it. Again, this stands for which functions are positive. So they're telling me that they're telling me that sine of this angle is less than 0. If the sine of that angle is less than 0, that means that it's negative. So what I want you to do is look at this and try to figure out which quadrants is sine negative. I like to really think of where it's positive first. So sine is positive in quadrant 2. So it's not negative there. So it can't be there. And sine is also positive in quadrant 1 because they're all positive. So sine is negative in this quadrant 3, and in quadrant 4. I'm going to do the same with the other scenario. They're telling me that cosine of this angle is greater than 0. So that means that cosine is positive. So I need to figure out in which quadrants is cosine positive. Well, the big C stands for where cosine is positive. So cosine's positive there, and cosine is also positive in quadrant 1 because they're all positive. So your job is to do this and figure out where these two scenarios are going to be true. So both of these scenarios are true here in quadrant 4. So you're going to pick quadrant 4 and submit your answer. Once you see a check mark, you know you got that right, and you could go to the next problem. So it's just going to be an array of these and asking you to determine which quadrant it is in. So again, please set up all students take calculus. They're telling me that sine of theta is greater than 0. So sine is positive. Go to your little chart, just mark off where sine is positive. Okay? Then they're also telling me that cosine, so that was my first one, then they're telling me that cosine of this angle is less than 0, which means that it's negative. So let's take a look and let's figure out where cosine is now negative. And I'm going to mark that off. Again, for negative, I like to think where it's positive and cross that off. So cosine's positive here, so it can't be negative. Cosine's also positive here, so it can't be negative. Cosine's going to be negative in quadrant 2 and in quadrant 3. Again, we're looking for the quadrant that makes both of these true. So quadrant 2 is where both of these are true. I can submit my answer and I get it right. I'm going to do one more because this one has tangent in it. Nothing new, same thing. Set up all students take calculus. I want cosine to be less than 0. So I know cosine is negative. So let's figure out where cosine is negative. Again, it's positive here and here, so it can't be in those quadrants. It has to be here or here. And then I also want to figure out where tangent is greater than 0. So where is tangent positive? So let's look. Tangent is positive where my big T is, and they are all positive here. The quadrant that has both those scenarios true is quadrant 3. So you're going to complete 4 of those for the first part. The second part is a review all the way back to the first day. Now, this Delta Math assignment is a little different. I've actually never done one of these, so I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I think that you guys will be fine with this. So this one has like a clock, and you have to beat this 10,000 seconds. I made it a lot of times so that you have plenty of time to do it. So if you hit start, don't worry about that time. Just worry about the questions, okay? This is asking you to find cosine of A. In order to do this, I need to remember this. So, SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA helps you know that sine is the ratio of opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So, in order to answer this question, I'm just going to make my triangle here so that I could write on it. So they told me this side is 48, this is 20, this is 52. Now, please make note that they're calling this angle B and this angle A. Depending on what angle you're looking at, sine, cosine, and tangent are different ratios because your opposite and adjacent sides kind of flip-flop for that. So they're asking me to find cosine of A. So this is the angle that I'm using to look from. I always want you guys to label your hypotenuse first. Hypotenuse is the one that's across from the right angle. Let me use a different color so it doesn't blend with that red. So my hypotenuse is the one that's across from the right angle. Then look across from whatever angle they told me. So they told me A, that's why I'm using angle A. This is my opposite, and then this is my adjacent. So for cosine, I know I'm doing adjacent over hypotenuse. So my adjacent is 48, my hypotenuse is 52. So you're going to look where it says 48 over 52, and then it goes right to the next one. That means that you got it right. If you click one randomly and it's wrong, your time's going to stop and you have to start over. So your goal in this is to get 8 of them correct in a row. So now I need to start over. They're asking me for sine of A. So sine is opposite over adjacent. Again, they're asking me to use angle A. So here's my angle A. I have 36, 27, and 45. Like you guys to label these. So my hypotenuse, my opposite, my adjacent. So if I want to do sine of this angle A, I'm using this angle here. And I want to do opposite over hypotenuse. So that's going to be my opposite is 36 and my hypotenuse is 45. So 36 over 45. Again, it goes right away to the next question. So now I'm trying to find tangent of A. I know tangent is opposite over adjacent. And again, always write out that phrase SOHCAHTOA to help you. Again, I'm using angle A for this one. So my opposite is 21. My adjacent is 28. So I'm going to hit 21 over 28, and it brings me right to the next one. Cosine of B. Again, I'm always going to keep writing this SOHCAHTOA. Okay, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, but now they're telling me angle B. So I'm using where angle B is. So when I find these angles, I'm just going to draw this quick. I'm using angle B. My hypotenuse is 10. My opposite is 6. And my adjacent is 8. So if I'm finding cosine, that's adjacent over hypotenuse, so 8 over 10, which is this third option. So see how it says my score is now 3 out of 8. You need to get 8 of those correct in a row, and it's going to time you. So if you want to try it again and try to beat your time, you absolutely can. But it is very important that we're able to make these ratios. Again, going forward, this is a skill we're going to use. So for today, that's what your 2 tasks are on Delta Math. Doing the signs of the trig functions, using this all students take calc diagram to help you determine which quadrant they're talking about, and then just playing with SOHCAHTOA and doing the ratio of these sides in this identifying trig ratios. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, Canvas message me. You could also email Mr. P. He is available all day for questions. And I hope that you find this video helpful. Have a great one. Bye.